Not all absence means disinterest. In fact, silence can be one of the loudest ways someone expresses their inner conflicts. When a person thinks about you but doesn't reach out, it's easy to assume they've moved on or lost interest. But psychology tells us otherwise. The truth is that emotions don't simply disappear overnight, and in many cases, the lack of communication is not about you. It's about them. People often struggle with their own feelings in ways that are not immediately obvious. Someone may constantly think about you, but refrain from reaching out due to internal battles they're fighting alone. These battles can stem from unresolved emotions, past experiences, or even a subconscious fear of what reconnecting might bring. Instead of taking action, they choose the comfort of distance, hoping their emotions will fade with time. But ironically, this emotional suppression often has the opposite effect, making them think about you even more. One of the most common reasons for this behavior is emotional resistance. This occurs when someone knows they still have feelings, but actively tries to suppress them. The human mind is wired to protect itself from emotional pain, and for many, avoidance seems like the easiest way to cope. Rather than risking vulnerability, rejection, or reopening past wounds, they convince themselves that staying silent is the best choice. However, emotions don't operate on logic. The more they try to ignore their thoughts about you, the more persistent those thoughts become. Another factor is the comfort of nostalgia. Memory plays a powerful role in human emotions, and when someone has shared meaningful experiences with you, those memories don't simply vanish. Certain triggers, a song, a place, a phrase, can bring back emotions they thought they had buried. Even if they don't act on these feelings, they relive them internally, sometimes struggling with the idea of reaching out but stopping themselves at the last moment. The result? A cycle of thinking, reminiscing, and hesitating, leading to prolonged silence that may be misinterpreted as a lack of interest. Then, there's the fear of change. Reconnecting means facing reality, and for some, that's intimidating. They may wonder if you've changed, if you still feel the same, or if reaching out would disrupt the delicate balance they've created in their life. In some cases, people prefer the fantasy of what was rather than the uncertainty of what could be. Thinking about you gives them a sense of connection without the risks that come with real interaction. So when someone doesn't contact you but continues to think about you, it's not always a sign that they've moved on. More often than not, it's a sign of emotional hesitation, inner conflict, and unresolved feelings. Silence, in many cases, doesn't mean absence of thought. It means an overwhelming presence of it. The question is, will they eventually break the silence? Or will they continue living in the comfort of their own thoughts, hoping that time will do what they cannot? Pride and ego are two of the biggest obstacles in human relationships. Often, when someone thinks about you but doesn't reach out, it's not because they don't want to, it's because they refuse to. Deep down, they may have the urge to talk to you, to check how you're doing, or to revisit the connection you once had. But something holds them back. That something is often their own pride, a silent force that convinces them that making the first move would make them look weak, desperate, or vulnerable. Pride is a defense mechanism. It protects people from rejection, embarrassment, and the fear of appearing emotionally dependent. When someone has been hurt before, whether by you or by past experiences, they build walls around themselves to avoid feeling exposed again. Reaching out means lowering those walls, admitting that they still care, and risking a response they may not be ready to handle. Instead, they choose silence, hoping that you will be the one to take the first step. Ego also plays a significant role in these mind games. Many people view relationships as a power struggle, where the one who cares less has the upper hand. If they reach out first, they might feel like they are losing this imaginary battle. This is especially true if there was a past conflict, a breakup, or an unresolved situation between you. They may fear that contacting you will make them seem weak, like they're giving in or admitting fault. Rather than face that possibility, they convince themselves that staying silent is the better option. even if it means going against what their heart truly wants. Another factor is expectation and entitlement. Some people believe that if you truly care, you should be the one reaching out. They wait, expecting you to make the first move, interpreting your silence as a sign that you don't care enough. This creates a toxic cycle where both people are waiting for the other to act, resulting in a prolonged standoff filled with unspoken emotions and missed opportunities. Social conditioning also plays a role. Many individuals, especially those with strong independent personalities, are taught to suppress vulnerability. They may have been raised to believe that showing emotions is a sign of weakness or that love should never be chaste. These beliefs, whether conscious or subconscious, keep them from acting on their feelings, even when their thoughts are consumed by you. In the end, pride and ego do not erase emotions. They only postpone them. The longer someone fights against their desire to reach out, the more intense their internal struggle becomes. But the real question is, how long can they keep up the act? Some will eventually break and reach out when the weight of their thoughts becomes unbearable. Others will cling to their pride, waiting indefinitely for a sign that may never come. When pride speaks louder than emotions, connections suffer. And in many cases, some connections don't fade, no matter how much time passes or how much distance grows between two people. Even when someone doesn't reach out, their mind may still be trapped in the memories, emotions, and unspoken words that tie them to you. This isn't just nostalgia, it's the power of emotional connection, a force that lingers long after conversations have ended and paths have diverged. Psychology explains that certain bonds are so deeply rooted in our emotions that they become part of who we are, making it nearly impossible to simply move on. One reason for this lingering attachment is the impact of shared experiences. When two people create meaningful memories together, those moments become ingrained in their subconscious. The human brain associates emotions with places, sounds, smells, and situations. So even if someone tries to suppress their feelings, something as simple as a familiar song or a random phrase can bring everything rushing back. This is why some people continue thinking about someone they haven't spoken to in months or even years. It's not always about wanting to reconnect. It's about the fact that the emotions tied to that person are still alive, waiting to resurface. Another powerful factor is unresolved emotions. When a relationship, friendship, or connection ends without closure, the brain tends to replay past interactions in an attempt to find answers. This is why people often find themselves thinking, "What if?" or imagining conversations they never had. The more unfinished business there is between two people, the harder it becomes to truly let go. Someone may not reach out because they're afraid of reopening old wounds, but at the same time, they can't stop thinking about what could have been. Then there's the psychological concept of attachment. People develop emotional attachments based on the level of comfort, support, and understanding they received from someone. If you were a source of security, joy, or even challenge in their life, your absence creates a void that isn't easily filled. They might try to replace that, filling with distractions, new relationships, or personal growth, but deep inside, the connection remains. This is why someone might avoid contact but still keep tabs on you through social media, mutual friends, or even dreams. Fear also plays a role in why someone thinks about you but chooses silence. They may worry that reaching out could change things, that they won't receive the response they hope for, or that reconnecting might pull them back into something they're trying to resist. Sometimes staying in the safety of their thoughts feels easier than facing reality. In the end, an emotional bond doesn't simply disappear, it transforms. Some people will eventually act on their thoughts, seeking closure or reconnection. Others will carry those feelings with them silently, letting time soften the intensity but never fully erase the connection. When someone keeps thinking about you but doesn't reach out, it's not because they've forgotten, it's because, in some way, you are still a part of them. Sometimes the reason someone doesn't reach out, despite constantly thinking about you, isn't pride, nor is it a lack of feelings. Instead, it's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, and fear of intimacy can all create an invisible barrier that keeps a person from taking action, even when every thought in their mind tells them to. This fear operates on a deep psychological level, often rooted in past experiences, insecurities, and an internal conflict between longing for connection and protecting oneself from potential pain. One of the strongest fears is the fear of rejection. Reaching out means risking the possibility of not receiving a response, being ignored, or worse, being told that the other person has moved on. For some, this possibility is too painful to face, so they choose silence over uncertainty. Their mind plays out different scenarios, convincing them that staying in the shadows is the safer option. The irony, however, is that their silence often causes them even more distress, as they continue to wonder what could have happened if they had just taken that step. Closely tied to this is the fear of looking weak or unwanted. Many people associate reaching out with surrender as if making the first move means admitting defeat. They may believe that the person who reaches out first holds less power in the dynamic, so they avoid doing so to protect their ego. This fear is particularly common in those who have been hurt before, whether in past relationships, friendships, or family situations. If they've ever experienced rejection or emotional pain, their mind builds a defense mechanism, teaching them that avoiding vulnerability is the best way to stay safe. Then there's the fear of intimacy itself. While most people crave connection, intimacy requires emotional exposure, and that can be terrifying. Some individuals struggle with emotional closeness because it makes them feel vulnerable, dependent, or out of control. They may have a subconscious belief that allowing someone to get too close means giving them the power to hurt them. As a result, they sabotage their own desires, keeping a safe distance even when their heart tells them otherwise. Past trauma can also be a factor. If someone has experienced abandonment, betrayal, or deep emotional wounds, they may develop an automatic response of avoidance. They tell themselves that by not reaching out, they are preventing future pain, but in reality, they are only prolonging their suffering. The more they suppress their emotions, the more they find themselves trapped in a cycle of thinking about you, but never acting on those thoughts. Ultimately, fear can be just as strong as love. It can keep people stuck in a battle between their emotions and their insecurities. Some will eventually find the courage to face their fears and reach out, while others will let fear win, living with the constant what if in their minds. When someone thinks about you but doesn't take action, it's often not because they don't care. It's because their fears are louder than their desires. When someone constantly thinks about you but doesn't reach out, the question arises: should you wait, take action, or simply move on? The answer depends on the nature of the connection, the reasons behind their silence, and, most importantly, what you truly want for yourself. In many cases, the choice isn't about them. It's about you deciding whether this situation serves your emotional well-being or if you're holding on to something that no longer aligns with your life. First, it's crucial to assess the situation objectively. Are they not reaching out because of pride, fear, or emotional conflict? Or is it because they have genuinely moved on? It's easy to mistake silence for hesitation when, in reality, the other person may have already closed that chapter in their life. If they are showing no signs of lingering interest, no indirect communication, no subtle attempts to stay connected, it may be a sign that they've chosen distance, and you should consider doing the same. If you believe their silence is due to emotional hesitation rather than indifference, you have two options: waiting or taking action. Waiting, however, can be dangerous if it turns into emotional stagnation. You shouldn't put your life on hold for someone who is uncertain about their own feelings. Instead, focus on yourself, your growth, your happiness, your own path. If they eventually gather the courage to reach out, you'll be in a position to make a decision based on what's best for you, rather than on emotions rooted in longing. On the other hand, if you feel that the connection is worth exploring, creating an opportunity for reconnection can be a step forward. This doesn't mean chasing or pressuring them. It means opening a door without losing your dignity. A simple, casual message, a lighthearted interaction, or even just showing presence in a way that reminds them you're still there can be enough to break the silence. However, if even after this they remain distant, that's your answer. When someone repeatedly chooses not to act, it's a message in itself. It's also important to protect your emotional boundaries. If their silence is making you feel unworthy, anxious, or emotionally drained, then the best thing to do is walk away. Holding on to someone who isn't actively choosing you can lead to endless emotional exhaustion. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself, enough to not settle for uncertainty. In the end, relationships, whether romantic or platonic, should be reciprocal. If someone truly values you, they will find a way to overcome their fears, pride, or hesitation. If they don't, then they are not in the right emotional space to offer you the connection you deserve. So the real question is not whether they will reach out, but rather,